I think the first time I knew what I wanted to do with my life was when I was about 4 years old. I was listening to an old Victrola playing a railroad song. The song was called Hobo Bill's Last Ride. And I thought that was the most wonderful, amazing thing that I'd ever seen, that you could take this piece of wax and music would come out of that box. From that day on, I wanted to sing on the radio. That was a big thing when I was growing up, singing on the radio. And the ultimate, the extent of my dream was to sing on the radio station in Memphis. Even when I got out of the Air Force in 1954, I came right back to Memphis and started knocking on doors at the radio station. I grew up in the 40s, and I heard all these great speeches like Winston Churchill. His most famous or infamous commencement exercise speech was one that consisted of 7 words. He stood before this graduating class and said, "Never, never, 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 never give up." And then somebody else said, "Every day in every way I'm getting better and better." I didn't especially believe that about myself, but I said it every day and I made myself believe it, and it worked. But I persevered. I never gave up my dream to, quote, sing on the radio. And that dream came true in 1955. There was a label called Sun Records in Memphis that was pretty hot with Elvis Presley and 2 or 3 locally well-known country acts and some black blues and gospel singers. And when I got out of the Air Force, I went and knocked on that door and was turned away. I called back for an interview 3 or 4 times, was turned away. So one morning, I found out what time the man went to work. I went down with my guitar and sat on his steps until he got there. And when he got there, I introduced myself, and he said, "You're the one that's been calling." I said, "Yeah." You know, I had to take the chance. He was either going to let me come in or he was going to run me off, turn me down again. But evidently, he woke up on the right side of bed that morning. He said, "Come on in, let's listen." So he did. He said, "Come back tomorrow and bring some musicians." So I went down to a garage where I worked, where my brother Roy worked, and met and was introduced to 2 musicians down there. Brought them back to the studio, and the next day was our first session. We recorded and released the songs that we recorded the second day. In my little world there in northeast Arkansas on the cotton farm, it was my brother Jack. He was kind of my inspiration, but he was 2 years older than I, and he was killed at the age of 14. I always wanted to be like him. And throughout the year, he was a strong person. He was a Bible student. He was in perfect shape physically. I always wanted to be like him. And when he died, my best friend was still my mother, and she always encouraged me to sing. Matter of fact, we were very poor, and she took in washing from the school teachers, washed their clothes to make money to give me singing lessons, voice lessons. After about 3 lessons, the voice teacher said, "Don't take voice lessons, do it your way." So I was glad for my mother that I didn't have to take them. If you can hold your listener, hold their attention, and sure you know what you're doing, and know that you're communicating. You know, performance is communicating. You got to communicate. If you got a song you're singing from your gut, you want that audience to feel it in their gut. And you got to make them think that you're one of them sitting out there with them too. They got to be able to relate to what you're doing. I start a lot more songs than I finish because I realize when I get into them, they're no good. I don't throw them away. I just put them away, kind of store them, get them out of sight. But I'll get an idea for a song that will gel in my mind for weeks or months, and then one day, just like that, I'll write it. Songwriting is a very strange thing, so far as I'm concerned. It's not something that I can say, next Tuesday morning I'm going to sit down and write songs. I can't do that. Can't, no way. If I say I'm going to the country and take a walk in the woods next Tuesday, then the probability is next Tuesday night I might can write a song. You know, creative people have to be fed. from the divine source. I do. I have to get fed. I have to get filled up in order to pour out. Really have to. The big thing about the music in my life, we shared it. You know, we have a sharing marriage, and we share the road, we share the bedroom, we share the backstage, on stage, we share the music, the feeling and the emotion and the joy of it, you know, and the pain and the sadness of it. We share the love of our children. It would be terribly lonely not to have someone to share those things with me. And she's not only a lady who I share my life with, but she may have been the person responsible for me still being alive, she and God, because she came along at a time in my life that I was on self-destruct, and she saw what I was doing to myself, and she helped bring me back up out of it. And we fought and worked hard to keep our feet on the ground since then, but like I say, today's a good day.